Joydeep has made my life a little easier by talking about the nano and the swatch, and probably we all are aware of many such things. So I'm not going to be talking on various examples, but I'll go a little deeper in terms of what are the various processes and tools and techniques that we try to offer to the Tata Group of companies so that they can foster innovation within their individual companies. And that's why this is where we start with. It is important to note out here is that the Tata Group has been innovative since the very beginning in its entire history of about 100 odd years. But somewhere as the subject became more and more important, Mr. Tata, then the ex-chairman, he said that let's put down a more systematic approach around innovation and offer that to the various Tata companies. So in other words, he says, can we democratize the process of innovation into various companies? Keeping that in mind, there was a central body which started, which is called TGIF. It's not thank God it's Friday, it's the Tata Group Innovation Forum, which was instituted somewhere in 2007 with the following charter, where we wanted to actually encourage, create that environment. We wanted to advise companies on innovation and create evangelists as we move forward. Now, keeping that in mind, there was a need to create a common language around innovation so that the processes and so that the mindset and the culture could be aligned towards this particular subject. So what did the group do? The group started to look at the various academia. We started to look at experts. Given are a very few experts out here, we went to Henry Chesborough, Professor Julian Birkinshaw, London Business School, and so on and so forth, on various subjects of innovation. We did a lot of workshops, a lot of training, so that people can understand these subjects of what makes innovation happen in the company. It's very simple to tell a person, you need to be more innovative. But that doesn't happen. If someone tells me, Rajesh, you need to be more innovative from tomorrow, I can't just become more innovative from tomorrow. There needs to be a need. There needs to be some process behind it. And that was the entire thing about democratizing the process. So other than learning from various academia, various people, etc., we also did some missions. Going across the world, looking at various innovative companies and trying to understand what makes innovation happen in these companies. So we did a number of missions, Far East, towards the West, somewhere in the middle in Israel. As a result of all of this, we started to put a lot of publications so that we could create that language around innovation. So a number of publications started to come in, it started to go across various Tata Group of companies. While this process continues, we are still in a very nascent stage of innovation across the Tata Group. We can understand from 2007, it's just been about 6 years, trying to make this process more systematic. And as David Landsman was telling in the beginning, we have a group of companies where we don't just mandate things. We put it forward to them and let them adopt and adapt things which is being offered. And that is the philosophy of the Tata Group. Now, this picture that you see is the current picture of what are the various tools and techniques that we have been offering the various Tata Group of companies. And these tools and techniques, I'll just put probably one slide each on each one of them so that you understand. But the overall framework talks about, for any kind of innovation to happen, we need ideas. Those ideas need to get selected and developed, which finally gets into the form of innovations. And at each of these levels, we started to develop things which could help the Tata Group. The very first one that we developed was something called Innometer, which we adopted from Professor Julian Birkinshaw of London Business School. He had written a number of papers on the innovation value chain, and from that we picked it up, we converted that into a tool, we added a few bits from our side, and said, what could this tool tell a company? So as the name suggests, Innometer, it is a kind of a meter which tells companies where they are at different parts of this innovation value chain, which looks at three aspects. One is the process aspect, one is the strategic focus of the organization, and one is the culture that makes innovation happen. So this is a survey come a lot of studies that happen within an organization which is conducted by us so that we can present back to the management that this is where you are. These are some sample results on that. Professor Julian Birkinshaw had done a study about 121 companies across the globe, and he had created some indices, and it is against that we benchmark every company where they are in their journey of innovation. This is what is the innovation value chain in terms of what Julian mentioned about ideas inside, ideas outside, cross-pollination, selection, development, and diffusion into the entire organization. This chart here talks about the culture of innovation. So he created this based on his studies of about 121 odd companies and said, okay, there are 3 or 4 parameters on which we can study the culture and tell a company where they are weak and where they are strong and what actions they can take around that. So this is the Innometer results or outcomes in terms of the strategic focus, the process, which is the value chain, and all across the culture of the organization. Going forward, we said, while we have done all these studies, ideas are important. And how do we generate ideas? We can get 10 people into a room, we can do brainstorming, etc. And there are many other multiple mechanisms, but at that time, Web 2.0 was a technology that we started to harness. And this tool that we developed called Innoverse, and all these are terms that we have been giving and branding it within the Tata Group of companies. It is a Web 2.0 platform which uses the principles of prediction markets and says, let us use the wisdom of the crowd. Tata Innoverse today has become a tool which connects all that 100 plus Tata companies together. So it's not innovation just happening within a company, it is collaborating it with other Tata companies across the globe. And that is the platform that we have created for the Tata Group, where we can put challenges. And against those challenges, ideas can be sought from within a company, it can be sought from other Tata companies, and now in the next generation of our Innoverse, we are trying to take it even beyond the Tata companies to various other parts of the world. But that will be selective and depends upon what subject are we looking at. So this uses, there are various features around this. It works on the prediction markets. What is in for me? Why do I participate in it? I can buy and sell ideas. I have some virtual currencies onto the system when I log in. And this enables, like a Facebook page, enables ideas that get a lot of votes to surface up. So that management can then pick up those ideas and say, okay, how can we implement many of these ideas? Rather than, leaving it to the suggestion group and having a committee which evaluates each idea after the other, and so on and so forth. In order to make this even more better, we said, okay, why just leave ideas to come into the Innoverse? Can we channelize some of these ideas? So we started something called Challenges Worth Solving, which is which sits onto the Innoverse platform. We invite those wicked problems from companies, we publicize them, and we run this twice in a year. And you can see that kind of a calendar out here, wherein we get some very, very wicked problems. In every one cycle, it will be not more than 25 to 30 such across the Tata Group. We make it open to the entire Tata Group. We run that competition. Ideas are submitted on those. And many a times we have seen most of the ideas which have found to be very good certainly come in from outside the organization. So it's not from within the organization, it comes from other Tata companies. And that is what using the wisdom of the crowd is all about. This has been very successful. We have been running this for the last 3 or 4 cycles. And as we move ahead, we will keep on maturing this particular thing. Now for the management, it becomes more important that yes, Innoverse is there, idea generation is there. How do we manage all of these things? So there was another tool that we adopted from Professor Clayton, which is called InnoCompass, which is basically saying, do you have a portfolio of innovation? And that portfolio of innovation talks about, in any organization, how many projects are on the improvement journey, how many are incremental innovations, how many are breakthrough innovations across, whether it's product, services, processes, or business model. And does an organization have a view of all of these things? So with that in mind, we created this particular tool which says, ideas are important. Can we channelize those ideas into creative themes so that we can get and create this portfolio and then use that tool to manage it across the innovation value chain? So not only in terms of what is the strategy or intents or the challenges, but when the ideas are received, what is the portfolio and how do we see that to implementation? This tool can help us to do that. Let's move ahead a little bit and come down to the last step, which is Innovista, which is all about recognizing and celebrating innovations. And to be very fair, when we started the journey, this was the first thing that we put across to the group. This was the first thing that started. All those other tools is gradually developed. This was the first one. We said, we need to recognize. We need to celebrate. And as we went forward, we started to see huge amount of innovations and improvements happening across the organization. And today, this has become a momentum and a movement in itself. This is an annual event which takes place where currently it is right now open, which we call as Starter Innovista. But since this has increased many-fold, we have started to run these competitions in various geographies. And from there, the winners flow up into the global finals, which takes place in every April. Now, what are the various categories in which we have been trying to get these innovations? And somewhere, we heard about Dare to Try, that do we celebrate only success or do we celebrate failures also? And gradually, over a period of time, we started to look at promising innovations, which is all innovations that have been successful in companies, have been proven. We started to recognize groups and peoples who dared to try and then come forward and said, yes, I tried this, but I failed. And so there is a recognition on that. We have recognitions on the leading edge, proven technologies. And from this year onwards, we have added one more category, which is on design. And gradually, we'll see how we can keep on adding or converging categories on which innovations can happen across the group. Over the last 4-5 years, every year there are approximately 3,000 entries across these categories that get received. They are fed through the regional mechanisms and then they roll up into the global finals for innovations to be recognized. And that is what, Jaideep, we have not shared our slides, but your last line was improving the quality of life. Yes, the Tata Group believes in improving the quality of life wherever we operate. Thank you.